49 days of saying goodbye. Remember, waking next to a pillow light salted pink, old rose curtains and linoleum floors, smell of old skin, a finger against a cheek. Monkeying between bookcases, slaying under coat racks, hunting dust bunnies, getting caught, doing scratch tickets, sucking on a melon stick, tandem cycles in abandoned parks, the broken rock of an old Ferris wheel saying again and again. Sleeping in closets, waiting for the hacking to stop, watching people burn, not knowing why, idling by exhaust fire, thinking this is warmth, sitting still, running in my mind, thinking it is time to grow. Pushing up summer streams for a boulder closest to the sky, lying down and measuring the remaining depth of our future together. Understanding time, forgiving, promising, low singing, breaking like an egg, and the fall light coating the room, your breath standing between the court window. Castella crumbles, fluorescent rooms in wisps of pine smoke. Standing blank in laundromats, walking back in circles, eyes closed, holding everything, grating grains of chalk against a glass wall, forgetting words unspoken, lines unwritten, blowing through closed lips, a tremor of perfect tight circles, yellow balloons bouncing on the ceiling, leaving them to dry on changing seasons. Then one day, take them out for a stroll in the park, a handful of shrunk lemons, the dust squeezing out like a breath let go. White ribbons flowing away, rub open-palmed to the winter sky, and a snowflake, a brief kiss on the forehead, saying again and again and again. Repose. Desire a safe place. Sitting in a forest painting with warmth alone, mayflies and pollen swimming. A baby in a shallow bath. Imprint. 3 leaves sprouting from your fingers, a totalitarian grasp on my shoulder. The line is broken, and the need to paint things better. 5 o'clock dance. Sunlight mooring in the mood for the afternoon. Delight, waltzing to your slow samba, bare feet searching. For each other, heaven, in this hour, a question of an answer, if you want me, if I do. Looking down at the railway on March 15th. On the soft edges of March, I thought, loving you is to love the freight train coming right at us. Leaving you would be to be on that train and run in straight at you. To step out of the railway, I found shoes reeking strong of apathy, only to find it was a Christmas present I wore out many, many times. And when I turned to ask why'd you never tell me, you were crouching down counting pennies, and I didn't have any paper to do anything. So when we say we split due to differences, we were stood on live wire, waiting for that train to pass. Extrapolation. I returned to a funeral home. Silence, moss green carpeting on varnished floor, slithers up the stairs to coil under the bed until its next event. Late spring is a slow season for death. Mildew gathers dry on the walls like scarab beetles scarping across and the movement echoing along like the passing rain. Quietness breeds. In closed quarters, loneliness thrives. Loneliness rises like lethargy, like white dough expanding. You sit on that kitchen chair, breathing soft white mushrooms. And I think a wedge was planted when you were young and the spores ate your mind. I think someone drove a hose into your heart to bleed it slowly. The betrayal raised you, and all my life I spent listening to that slow drip like a lullaby. I gathered the droplets with my hands, I poured them into my heart. I drank what was left of you so we would have damp hearts together. I have watched together deteriorate multiple times. Like when faith walked into the sea for your heart, as if you were an oyster for him to harvest. Like when a log fell out of your womb and you fell in love for the first time. Together is a cesspool of human warmth, and its clinging, tiring currents we inhabit I grew to cherish. The quiet, the sound of things stopping, the slight pause before slapping flesh, the aimless, exitless lack of violence. So as quietly as the gasp of every god sits in the parlor waiting, you stay affixed to your agony, and I stand before the closed door, deciding. Because if I were to describe your name as a child wriggling around your legs, coating the kitchen linoleum with joy and grated apples, I would say love was a gently pressed egg yolk pooling on your spoon that was always meant for me, like noon lights, like 5 o'clocks, and you read to me. But after 7, I would say a lot of waiting on the doorstep after chores, reading the time until I turn 11 and I start melting into this affair, where customs dictate I need to give what I have received, and I had a very little bag with very little things. So I failed you. I left you on your pedestal unsolvable. I was your chain with the keys to below, and I should have broken them for your submission. Distantly, the din of a broom sweeping next door comes nearer to the joint wall, and fear uncoils within me like a dream. I follow the cold smell of footsteps extending its line, and I wonder if it'll come past the threshold, come past you, come past me, confiscate my cowardice. Cowardice is thy name who stands behind, counts the seconds before a blow intact, calculates the weight of a moment before death, of death, and pays it back with lesser pain. I became good friends with cowardice. It came for me without having to ask. It clamped against the wall and told me, let me stay on this side of things, saved me from explanation, saved me from sight, saved me, gave them an unblemished face full of cowardice and no tragedy to satisfy. Satisfy, rent my body back per time, pacify, loosen the tie, relieve, deflower, palliate, dissociate, abandon your love. Abandon your love for me, for you, for him, for us, for no one but yourself. And fear writhes within me. Lean and blind, it knows the stench I feed in his house. It stretches its mouth and swallows me inside out. I see no more blue pedestals waiting to be filled, no more tea, no more reading, the sizzle of the radio behind doors only getting lower. Fear asked me to leave or stay, and I could do neither, so I did both. And fear took me deeper into its stream. Triangular seas, a sailboat, waters and waters of silk cocoons gently rolling in the heat underwater, volcanoes fuming, wanting release, wanting eruption, wanting to have the last word. I turn around to find you on a cliff, torrential and descaled, wanting release, wanting revenge, to steal back your last war. I hover on the selfish sea boiling, listening to your faraway words. I look at your face, devoured and clean, and I gather the broiled carcasses and take them back ashore. They strip easily on cold hands, and I comb them with my teeth, my hair. I tie a large knot, soft and susurrus, leaving the last loop before closure. I climb your cliff. I reach forward, hands above the head for forgiveness, and a hand that takes mine leaves and leaves it empty. The din of metal and wood is gone now. I open my eyes to no sound, no smell. I open the door and let the air out of the room. I sweep out the blood, the glass, the beetles, the souvenir gods. I swipe by the kitchen around your chair for fresh water. I leave around the kitchen chair the white, silky mass it has become. I close my eyes and sidle up the stairs. I peel my wet eyelids and tie them to my wrists. I crawl under the bed for comfort, for darkness. Silence wraps around my body as it comes. We share our mouths for warmth. We fall asleep. It is a slow room for sleep. Cohabitation. Perhaps I understand that for companionship. Share your sense of time. I must not match my given time. It does not do to weave, to call, too coarsely once in a while. Breathing in the sound of your voice, I smell too closely a gushing sigh in the space you stood goodbye. Water escapes a vacuous cave. Tenderness flees a deserted mind. There is a road I must travel to get from here to there. Nothing I do will change the atmosphere, but for our distance remaining, a wishful thinking, a road left to travel. It seems all love between us has sanded away. Perhaps we sleep on a bed of dust that ran past us. Perhaps our hearts are too well worn for wear. Perhaps my sleeplessness affects yours more. Perhaps we lost care, and all we've left is indifference. Indifference melts into whole. Indifference is the bridge between you and I parting us that is now gone. When we grow slow to love, indifference, learned, sends us each away to islands, picks the conjoining seas apart, makes mountains into plains, makes the world flat. So there are no trees to climb over to send the message east, and we'd have no reason to write the letter. And I'd last as I can without. There is a house in some remote fields where I've never been, where you live these days, where you hide, where we don't live together. In bareback mountains, empty of people and their foliage of emotions, you dwell with yourself alone, where I am not. Here, I let the thought of you go, to the wilderness, to other people. I flee towards myself as you flee towards yours, until there is no one left to go to. I look for you, unknowing anywhere else, as if I've run too far for you to see me. I shout myself for you to hear. I knock for passage where there is no door, only space. And I relent. I sob with one hand and comfort with another. Your bare absence, I bear down. A whole and unwilling circle, I unravel. The silence you left standing. I run all waters for you. As a dove beating in lukewarm rain, a soft and heavy song, I ask to be opened, as if we are not. Leavings. I try to learn loneliness now, and I think I know how. Like to walk through a corridor narrow with silence, sit alone in full parks, return to an empty home. Wade into a school of fish untouched, stay stood on the sidewalk and look, straight-backed. See gashes of black whipping through the rain, mark their wet grey greys in the low mist. Carry them to a dry room. Spin thin strips of moisture into a cracked well. Fill it with the temperate touch of a promise kept. Step next to the sea scaling the beach like those mounds of sound crashing the asphalt. Draw a big dotting half moon on the sand and listen to the water talk. Watch my mind stumble louder in response. Watch it get quieter. And I think you left this world like turning a page. And I knew that I am alone in my sadness. And in it I will swim the remaining distance. Because in a brief section of time you taught me, and I learned. I learned to stop picking wildflowers to lean on, or speak to lampposts and wish them a light. I learned not to seek for the end of a breath, but to find smaller traces of air, take smaller sips of calmer colors, ride the waves my mind unaided, soothe the body rippling on uncertainties and yield. Let the fireflies out. Let the eyes sigh into the silence. Because I once looked at you and it told that I have threatened and asked gnarled adults to washed out saplings, and you answered that you wished to be a tree in a lost forest found only looking back, easily forgotten after passing, and I loved you and thought I mustn't look for you. But I do. Always. I read pages and pages of my mind stuck together. I lick them apart and find your face, unanchored in smooth sailing. I wander down the ground convulsing. I watch as it unfurls its invisible tail and stagger, limp and indifferent. I wander up above, to the cool clouds, purple anise and bitter oranges, and I wonder how to forget them, like the long width of a wooden bench in the setting afternoon, or feeling my way on foot, tasting the warmth of stone after stone, plant my timid hours on seams of pavements, like gathering your hands beneath a sleeping head, a finger stroking slowly along the muscled back of the water. I lean into the currents as they flow into my ears, and I wonder if you passed this way, if you passed well, if I will follow. A lone leaf rounds the waters to the mouth of the river. I return to my concrete bed. The edges fade to the sea of grass, where I see faces of clover and wormwood and mock strawberries. I see white dandelions praying, their downy heads yawning up. And I lift myself out of your face and try to be alone. Because you taught me, and because I learned.